The night my grandson ran up the cellar stairs. I thought it was just another bad dream. Until I saw his face white as paper, eyes full of something worse than fear. He said we had to leave. Now. No questions. No phone calls. Just go. By the time I understood what he'd found. Cameras hidden in my walls, forged papers calling me unfit to live alone, it was too late for denial. My own children had turned me into a project. They thought they were taking my life. They didn't know they were waking a fighter. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My grandson ran up the cellar stairs. His sneakers hit each step like hammers. The sound was wrong. Too fast. Too sharp. Jonah came through the kitchen door. His face was white. Not pale. White. Like someone had drained the color out through his ears. He grabbed my wrist. His fingers were cold. We had to leave. Now. Right now. I am 72 years old. I raised 2 children. I buried a husband. I do not startle easily. But something in his eyes made my chest tighten. He said not to call anyone. Not to ask questions. Just pack what I could carry. My phone lit up on the counter. Daniel's name glowed across the screen. Then Lila's. Then Daniel again. Jonah looked at the phone. He looked at me. He shook his head. I went upstairs. My hands moved without permission. Underwear. Socks. A sweater. Howard's watch from the nightstand. I shoved everything into a canvas tote. The phone kept ringing downstairs. The sound followed me like a siren. Jonah waited by the front door. His backpack hung from one shoulder. His laptop bag from the other. He looked like a soldier. 17 years old and ready for war. We walked to his car. The October air bit at my face. Leaves scattered across the driveway. Everything looked normal. The mailbox. The hedge. The porch light Howard installed before he died. Normal felt like a lie. I climbed into the passenger seat. Jonah started the engine. We pulled away from the curb. I watched my house in the side mirror. It shrank. Smaller. Smaller. Gone. The street blurred past. Trees. Fences. Other people's lives continuing without pause. My phone buzzed in my purse. Again. And again. Jonah's jaw was set. His knuckles white on the steering wheel. I asked him what happened. What he found. Not yet, he said. Not here. Not until we were safe. Safe. The word sat strange in my mouth. I had felt safe yesterday. Safe this morning. Safe drinking coffee in my own kitchen. We drove for 40 minutes. Jonah took exits I did not recognize. Strip malls. Gas stations. A liquor store with bars on the windows. He pulled into a motel parking lot. The sign buzzed. 2 letters were dead. The office window glowed yellow behind thick glass. Jonah paid cash. The clerk barely looked up. Room 12. Ground floor. Far from the road. Inside, the air smelled like old smoke and bleach. The bedspread had geometric patterns from another decade. A painting of a boat hung crooked on the wall. Jonah locked the door. He pulled the curtains. He set his laptop on the tiny desk. Then he told me to sit down. I sat. He opened the laptop. The screen glowed blue. His fingers moved fast across the keyboard. Windows opened. Closed. Opened again. He found it in the basement, he said. A black box. No brand. No label. Connected to my router like a tumor. He scanned the network. Found something hidden. A private channel. Password protected. The password was my birth date. Backwards. He logged in. Jonah turned the screen toward me. I saw my kitchen. My living room. My bedroom. all in little squares, like a security monitor, like a prison. My hand went to my throat. He clicked a folder. Audio files, dozens of them, dated, time-stamped, labeled by room. Another folder, video clips, edited, cut, rearranged. I watched myself forget an actress's name. Pause, laugh, say something else. In the edited version, the laugh was gone. The pause stretched longer. The silence felt wrong, heavy, like confusion, like decline. Another clip, me searching for my glasses, finding them on my head, smiling. In their version, the smile was cut. Just the searching, just the confusion. A third folder, documents, PDFs, official-looking headers, a medical evaluation, signed by a doctor I had never met. Dr. Raymond Kowalski. His signature looked real. His conclusions did not. Cognitive decline, memory impairment, requires supervised care. A petition for emergency guardianship. Daniel Hale and Lila Mercer, co-petitioners, seeking authority over medical decisions, financial decisions, living arrangements. My name at the top. My signature forged at the bottom. I stared at the screen. The room tilted. The boat painting slid sideways in my vision. I spent 40 years as a hospital compliance auditor. I taught others to trust evidence, to follow procedure, to document everything. Now my own children had documented me, edited me, forged me into someone I was not. The phone buzzed again in my purse. Jonah looked at me, waiting. I took the phone out. I turned it off. I dropped it into the bathroom sink. Then I asked him if he had made copies. He nodded. 3 thumb drives, encrypted, hidden in different pockets. Good, I said. That is good. My voice sounded calm, steady, like I was reviewing a chart. Like this was just another audit. But my hands were shaking. I thought about Howard, how he died 2 years ago in his sleep. Peaceful, fair, how I had sat beside him and held his hand until the warmth left. He would not believe this. Our children, cameras in the bedroom, lies in a folder. I thought about Daniel, how he sold condos to people with too much money. How he smiled and lied about square footage. I thought about Lila, how she sold her life online. Perfect lighting, perfect angles, everything edited, everything fake. They had edited me the same way. Cut and pasted, made me into content, a project, a problem, a thing to solve. Jonah asked what we should do. I looked at the screen. The files. The evidence. I looked at my grandson. His face pale, his eyes fierce. I told him we were going to burn it all down. But first, we needed to disappear. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. The motel walls were thin. Voices bled through from the next room. A television, laughter, someone living a normal Tuesday night. Jonah had fallen asleep in his clothes. His laptop still glowing on the desk. His breathing steady and young. I sat on the other bed. The springs creaked under my weight. Sleep would not come. My mind kept circling back, rewinding, searching for the moment I missed. 1 week earlier. That was when it started. Or when I noticed. Daniel had called on a Thursday. His voice warm, concerned. He wanted to visit, bring Lila, check in on me. I should have heard it then. The script in his tone. The rehearsed pauses. They arrived on Saturday morning. October sunshine. Leaves turning copper and gold. Daniel drove a car that cost more than my first house. Lila climbed out wearing white. Everything white. Sneakers. Jeans, sweater, like she was dressed for a photo shoot. She hugged me at the door. Her perfume was expensive, floral with something sharp underneath. Daniel carried a bakery box. Pastries from that place downtown. The one with the line around the block. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Howard and I had breakfast for 30 years. The same table where I fed them as children. They asked how I was doing, how I was sleeping, whether I felt lonely. The questions landed soft, but they had weight. Lila talked about community, about connection, about getting older with grace and support. She had researched some places, lovely places, where people my age could feel safe. She pulled out brochures, glossy paper, smiling faces, organized activities, medical staff on site. Daniel added numbers, equity, liquidity, smart planning for the future. The future, their future, not mine. I told them I was fine. The house was paid off. My health was good. I did not need organizing. Lila smiled. She touched my hand. She said that was exactly what worried her. That I thought I was fine when maybe I was not. Daniel mentioned small things. The milk I left out once. The appointment I rescheduled twice. The neighbor who asked if I was okay. I felt my jaw tighten. These were nothing. Normal. Human. But they had been collecting them. Building a case. Like evidence in a file. Lila said she wanted to help. To make things easier. She had brought some devices. Smart sensors. For peace of mind. She unpacked them from a canvas bag. Small white boxes. Elegant. Minimal. They looked like something from a boutique. Motion sensors, she said. So she could check if I was moving around. Staying active. She placed one in the hallway. One near the bedroom. One by the front door. Daniel talked about bills. About simplifying. He could set up automatic payments. Link my accounts. Take that burden off my shoulders. Burden. The word hung in the air like smoke. I told him no. My finances were in order. I had been managing money since before he was born. He smiled. He said of course. He was just offering. Just trying to help. Help. Everything was help. Jonah arrived for dinner. His mother had sent him. Or he had volunteered. Either way, he was quiet. Watching. We ate roast chicken, potatoes, green beans from the garden. The kind of meal I had made 1,000 times. Conversation turned to real estate. Daniel's specialty. The market was good. Inventory low. Prices climbing. Houses in my neighborhood were selling fast. He had closed 3 deals on my street alone. Lila added that downsizing made sense. Less to clean. Less to worry about. More freedom. Freedom. Another word that meant its opposite. I served pie. Apple. Howard's favorite. I made it every fall. Daniel asked if I remembered his recipe. If I still had his notes. Of course I remembered. I had made it 50 times. Maybe more. But the question was a test. I could feel it. A little hook. Checking for gaps. Jonah excused himself. Said he needed to check something. His phone. His email. Something. He disappeared downstairs. Toward the basement. Toward the router and the junction box and whatever black thing was breathing down there. Lila talked about her followers. Her audience. How they loved seeing family. Real life. Authentic moments. She asked if she could post a photo of us. Just for her close friends. Nothing public. I said no. I did not want my face on the internet. She looked hurt. She said she understood. But her eyes said something else. Daniel asked about my doctor. When I had last seen him. Whether I was keeping up with checkups. I told him 3 months ago. Everything normal. Blood pressure good. Cholesterol fine. He nodded. He said that was great. Really great. But maybe I should see someone who specialized in aging, in memory. Memory. There it was again. The word they kept circling back to. I stood. I started clearing plates. My hands steady. My voice calm. I told them I appreciated their concern. But I did not need managing. I did not need sensors. I did not need their help. The kitchen went quiet. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked above the stove. Daniel leaned back in his chair. His expression shifted. Less son, more salesman. He said they were not trying to manage me. They were trying to protect me. To make sure I was safe. Safe. That word again. It had teeth now. Lila added that she loved me. That this was hard for her too. But sometimes love meant difficult conversations. Difficult conversations. Code for overriding what I wanted. Jonah came back upstairs. His face pale. His phone clutched in his hand. He said he had to go. Homework. An assignment. Something he forgot. He hugged me, whispered in my ear, said we would talk soon. Then he left. Fast. Out the door before anyone could ask questions. Daniel and Lila stayed another hour. They washed dishes, packed up leftovers, moved through my kitchen like they already owned it. Lila adjusted one of the sensors. Made sure it was positioned right. Angled toward the hallway. Daniel asked again about my bills. About giving him access. Just in case. Just in case. In case of what? In case I died. In case I disappeared. I walked them to the door. Thanked them for coming. Said good night. They hugged me. Told me they loved me. Told me to call if I needed anything. Anything. Except my freedom. Except my dignity. Except my life. I watched their car pull away. Red tail lights fading down the street. The house felt different. Heavier. Like the walls were watching. I walked through each room. Looked at the sensors. Small and white and innocent. But innocence was a lie. I thought about Howard. How he always said to trust my gut. To listen when something felt wrong. Something felt wrong. I went to bed. Lay in the dark. Stared at the ceiling. The sensor in the hallway blinked. A tiny red light. On. Off. On. Off. Breathing. Now, in the motel, I understood. That dinner was the beginning. The setup. The first scene in a script I had not agreed to. They had already decided. Already planned. Already started. The cameras. The files. The forged documents. It was not sudden. It was calculated. I looked at Jonah. Still sleeping. Still young enough to believe the world was fair. I would teach him different. I would show him how to fight. But first, I needed to understand exactly what we were fighting. Morning would come soon. And with it, the next move. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Morning light crawled under the motel curtains. Gray and thin. The kind of light that offered nothing. Jonah was already awake. Sitting at the desk. His laptop open. His eyes red from screen time. He had been digging. All night. Pulling threads until the whole thing unraveled. Coffee from the lobby tasted like burnt plastic. But it was hot. That was enough. He walked me through it again. Slower this time. Step by step. The black box in the basement was a network hub. Commercial grade. The kind used for surveillance systems. Hidden SSIDs. Encrypted traffic. Remote access enabled. Someone had installed it carefully. Professionally. Not amateur hour. The device connected to 12 cameras. Pinhole lenses. Some wireless. Some hardwired into existing fixtures. 12. That number sat in my stomach like a stone. Jonah showed me the locations. A spreadsheet. Color-coded. Precise. Kitchen smoke detector. Living room clock. Bedroom alarm. Bathroom vent. Study lamp. Hallway thermostat. Every room. Every angle. Every moment. The mantel clock that Daniel had fixed last Christmas. He said the mechanism was sticking. Needed servicing. Took it away for 3 days. He brought it back working perfectly. Better than before. Because he had gutted it. Replaced the internals with a camera and a battery pack. The smoke detector Lila upgraded. Said the old one was expired. Not up to code. She installed the new one herself. Insisted. I had thanked her. Told her she was thoughtful. Thoughtful. The word tasted like poison now. Jonah clicked through the file structure. Folders within folders. Organized by date. By room. By type. Video. Audio. Documents. Analysis. Analysis. That folder made my skin crawl. Someone had been watching the footage. Tagging moments. Building a narrative. Subject forgets names. Subject repeats questions. Subject appears confused. Subject. Not mother. Not Ruth. Subject. Like I was a lab specimen. Something under glass. The audio files were worse. Hours of recordings. My voice. My footsteps. My conversations with myself. Talking to Howard. Out loud. Like he was still here. Still listening. I did that sometimes. In the kitchen. While cooking. While folding laundry. Normal grief. Normal widowhood. Normal human loneliness. But they had recorded it. Stripped context. Made it sound like dementia. Jonah played one clip. My voice asking Howard where he put the scissors. Then finding them myself. Then laughing. In the edited version, the laughter was gone. Just the question. Just the confusion. Just the empty air. They had cut me into pieces. Rearranged me. Made me into someone I was not. The doctor's report was a masterpiece of fiction. Dr. Raymond Kowalski. Board-certified geriatric psychiatrist. The evaluation was detailed. Medical terms. Clinical observations. Professional formatting. Progressive cognitive decline. Impaired executive function. Unsafe living conditions. Recommendation. Immediate supervised care. Legal guardianship. Asset protection. Asset protection. There it was. The real diagnosis. Jonah ran a search. Dr. Kowalski existed. Practiced in Connecticut. Had good reviews. Legitimate credentials. But he had never met me. Never evaluated me. Never signed that document. Someone had forged his signature. Stolen his letterhead. Built a lie on his reputation. The guardianship petition was next. Legal forms. Court documents. Everything needed to strip my rights. Daniel and Lila listed as co-petitioners. Claiming concerned family. Claiming emergency circumstances. Claiming I was a danger to myself. Exhibits attached. The edited videos. The forged evaluation. Statements from neighbors I barely knew. Mrs. Hale seems withdrawn. Mrs. Hale forgets things. Mrs. Hale might need help. Might. Seems. Maybe. All speculation. All hearsay. All carefully cultivated. The hearing date was set. 2 weeks from now. October 28th. Courthouse downtown. If I had stayed home. If Jonah had not found the box. If we had not run. I would have walked into that courtroom blind. No lawyer. No defense. No idea what was coming. The judge would have seen the evidence. The videos. the medical report, the concerned children. The gavel would have fallen. My rights would have vanished. My house would have transferred ownership. Daniel and Lila would have been my legal guardians. Full control, full access, full authority, and I would have been moved to one of those places. The ones with smiling brochures and locked doors. My stomach turned. The coffee burned coming back up my throat. Jonah handed me a water bottle. His hand steady, his eyes fierce. He asked what we should do. Who we should call. The police seemed obvious. This was illegal. Wiretapping, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. But police needed evidence. And evidence needed chain of custody. And chain of custody needed experts. I knew that world. I had lived in it for 40 years. Hospital compliance, fraud investigation, documentation standards. You do not walk into a fight with just emotion. You walk in with paperwork, timestamps, witnesses, proof that could survive cross-examination. We needed help. Professional help, the kind that cost money and came with credentials. I thought about Marcus Lee, digital forensics specialist, former FBI, now private sector. We had worked together once. Years ago, a hospital billing fraud case. Medicare kickbacks, false claims, millions in damages. Marcus had cracked the database, traced the payments. Built the case that sent 2 executives to prison. He owed me. I had protected his methods. Testified without breaking his sources. Made sure he looked good in court. Now I needed him to return the favor. Jonah found a burner phone at a gas station. Prepaid. Anonymous. $40 cash. I called Marcus from the motel parking lot. Morning traffic hummed on the highway. A semi-truck roared past. The air smelled like diesel and rain. He answered on the 3rd ring. His voice exactly the same. Gravel and smoke in Brooklyn. I told him who I was. What I needed. How fast I needed it. He did not ask why. Did not waste time on sympathy. Just shifted into work mode. He wanted the device, the hard drives, the network logs, everything physical, everything untouched. No cloud uploads, no Wi-Fi transfers, no digital fingerprints. Everything had to stay clean. He would send a team to sweep my house. Document every camera, every wire, every hidden eye. Full forensic imaging, triple redundancy. Chain of custody documentation. Admissible in court. It would take 3 days. Maybe 4. We needed to stay disappeared until then. No credit cards. No phones. No social media. No contact with anyone who knew us. Ghosts. That was the word he used. We needed to become ghosts. I asked about cost. He named a number that made my chest tighten. Then he cut it in half. Called it professional courtesy. Called it payback for the Medicare case. I accepted. Told him where to send the report. Gave him a secure email Jonah had set up. Marcus said one more thing. Whatever I was facing, whoever was doing this, they were not playing. This was organized, funded, professional. Someone had spent serious money to make this happen. I needed to be ready for war. Because that was what this was. War. The word hung in the air after I hung up. Heavy. Final. True. Jonah watched me from across the parking lot. His backpack slung over one shoulder. His face older than yesterday. I told him what Marcus said. What came next. What we were walking into. He nodded. He understood. He was ready. We climbed back into his car. The engine turned over. The radio stayed off. 3 days. We had 3 days to stay invisible. To stay quiet. To wait. 3 days while Marcus pulled the evidence. While the case built itself. While the trap got ready to spring. I thought about Daniel. About Lila. About their smiling faces and their careful plans. They thought I was weak. They thought I was confused. They thought I would never see it coming. They forgot who raised them. Who taught them. Who showed them how to plan and execute and win. I was 72 years old. I had audited hospitals. I had buried a husband. I had survived 2 children. And I was about to remind them exactly who I was. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. 3 days felt like 3 years. We moved motels every night. Different towns. Different parking lots. Always cash. Always ground floor. Jonah bought burner phones. Cheap ones. Activated with fake names and prepaid cards. We ate from gas stations. Protein bars. Bottled water. Bananas that bruised in the car. The waiting was its own kind of violence. My phone stayed dead in the bathroom sink back at the first motel. Daniel and Lila were probably losing their minds. Calling. Texting. Driving past my house. Good. Let them panic. Let them wonder. On the second day, Jonah showed me something new. Something he had been holding back. A video file. Timestamped 3 weeks ago. Sunday afternoon. The camera angle showed my living room. The couch where Howard used to read the paper. The window with his mother's curtains. Daniel and Lila sat together. Alone. Talking like I was not upstairs. Their voices were clear. The audio quality perfect. No ambient noise. No interference. Lila talked about timing. About market conditions. About striking while things were optimal. Daniel mentioned the guardianship lawyer. A woman named Patricia Vance. She specialized in elder cases. She knew the judges. She could expedite. Expedite. Such a clean word for stealing someone's life. Lila asked about the house. What it would appraise for. What they could clear after fees. Daniel had numbers ready. Comps from the neighborhood. Recent sales. Estimated equity. 1.2 million. Maybe more if they staged it right. They talked about splitting it. 50-50. Clean and simple. No arguments later. Lila wanted to use her share for the influencer retreat. The one in Bali. The one that cost 6 figures. Daniel wanted to invest. Flip properties. Turn 1.2 into 2.4. They laughed. Easy. Comfortable. Like they were planning a vacation. Not once did they mention my name. Not Ruth. Not Mom. Not even she. Just the asset. The property. The equity. I watched the video twice. My face blank. My hands folded in my lap. Jonah asked if I was okay. If I needed a break. The question was kind. But useless. Okay was not a place I could visit anymore. I told him to keep the file. To add it to everything else. Evidence had weight. The more we had, the heavier it got. On the third day, Marcus called. His voice tight. Controlled. The way it got when he found something big. His team had swept the house. Pulled every device. Photographed every installation. Documented every wire. 12 cameras total. Just like Jonah said. But the placement was surgical. Professional. Someone had studied the space. Mapped the angles. Eliminated blind spots. The mantle clock was custom work. The internals replaced with a high-resolution camera and a lithium battery pack. Good for 6 months between charges. The smoke detector was legitimate hardware. But modified. The sensor still worked. The camera was bonus. The bedroom alarm clock was the worst. It sat 3 feet from my pillow. pointed directly at the bed. Marcus found audio files. Me crying. Me talking to Howard. Me just breathing in the dark. Someone had listened to all of it. Tagged the most vulnerable moments. Isolated them for later use. The metadata showed access logs. IP addresses. Login times. User accounts. 2 accounts. Daniel's laptop. Lila's phone. Both logged in regularly. Both downloading footage. Both active conspirators. No ambiguity. No plausible deniability. Just evidence. Cold and clean and courtroom ready. Marcus asked about next steps. About legal counsel. About how hard I wanted to hit them. I told him I wanted a lawyer who ate glass for breakfast. Someone who made judges nervous. Someone with a reputation. He gave me a name. Nora Whitman. Criminal defense. Civil litigation. Specialization in elder abuse and financial exploitation. She had a 92% win rate. She did not lose. She did not settle unless it was blood. Her retainer was $50,000. Her hourly was $800. She was worth every penny. I told Marcus to send her everything. Full forensic report. Chain of custody. Witness statements. The works. Then I asked him to do one more thing. To keep monitoring the network. To see what Daniel and Lila did when they realized I was gone. Marcus said the network was still live. The cameras still recording. Empty rooms. Empty house. No subject to surveil. But the system logged their access. Every time they checked. Every time they panicked. He could see their digital footprints. Their searches. Their calls. Their desperation. It was beautiful. Watching them scramble. Watching them realize they had lost control. I called Nora Whitman from a McDonald's parking lot. The smell of fry grease hung in the air. A family with 3 kids argued over Happy Meal toys. Her assistant answered. Professional. Guarded. Screening calls like a bouncer at a club. I gave my name. Mentioned Marcus Lee. Said it was urgent and involved elder exploitation. 3 minutes later, Nora picked up. Her voice was winter. Sharp. Clear. No patience for nonsense. I outlined the situation. 30 seconds. Bullet points. No emotion. Illegal surveillance. Forged medical documents. Fraudulent guardianship petition. 2 adult children. Financial motive. Evidence secured. She asked 2 questions. Did I have money for her retainer? Did I want to destroy them? Yes. And yes. She told me to come to her office. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Bring Jonah. Bring the evidence. Bring a list of every asset I owned. We were going to war. But first we were going to build a fortress. That night, in another motel, I could not sleep. The mattress was lumpy. The heater rattled. The window did not close all the way. Cold air leaked in. I pulled the blanket to my chin. Jonah snored softly in the other bed. His phone charging on the nightstand. His shoes lined up by the door. 17 years old. He should have been worrying about grades. About college applications. About girls or boys or whatever kept him up at night. Instead he was here. In a cheap motel. Hiding from his own family. Because they were monsters. Because I had raised monsters. That thought was a knife. Sharp. Precise. Unavoidable. Somewhere I had failed. Somewhere between diapers and diplomas. Somewhere between birthday parties and job offers. I had taught them manners. I had taught them responsibility. I had taught them right from wrong. But I had not taught them empathy. I had not taught them to see people as more than assets. Howard would have known. He always knew. He could read people. Could see the rot before it spread. But Howard was gone. And I was here. Alone. Except for Jonah. Jonah, who had risked everything. Who had run up those stairs. Who had grabbed my wrist and said we had to go. Jonah, who was more family than the children I bore. The irony was not lost on me. The grandson saving the grandmother. The child protecting the elder. It should have been the other way around. But nothing was the way it should have been. Morning came slowly. Gray light. Rain on the window. The smell of mildew and old carpet. We packed our bags. Checked out at the front desk. Drove toward the city. Nora Whitman's office was in a converted brownstone. Brick facade. Black door. Brass nameplate polished to a mirror shine. The waiting room was elegant. Leather chairs. Abstract art. A receptionist who looked like she could kill you with a letter opener. Nora appeared at exactly 10. Tall. 50s. Gray hair cut sharp as a blade. A suit that cost more than my car. Her handshake was firm. Her eyes were cold. Her smile was a weapon. She led us to a conference room. Glass table. High-backed chairs. A view of the city stretching toward the river. Jonah set up his laptop. Pulled up the files. Walked her through everything. Nora watched without interruption. Her face blank. Her fingers steepled. Her mind clearly 5 steps ahead. When the presentation ended, she leaned back. Looked at me. Asked one question. How far did I want to take this? Criminal or civil? Punishment or settlement? Destruction or deterrence? I thought about the video. About Daniel and Lila laughing. About the number 1.2 million. I thought about the bedroom camera. About my grief recorded. About my dignity stolen. I thought about Jonah. About the life he should have. About the lesson he needed to learn. I told her I wanted everything. Criminal charges. Civil suit. Restraining orders. Public record. I wanted them to lose. To hurt. To remember. Nora smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was a shark-smelling blood. She told me to sit tight. To stay disappeared. To let her handle the rest. Because she was about to make them wish they had never heard my name. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Nora moved like a general. Fast. Precise. No wasted motion. Within 2 days she had filed emergency motions. Restraining orders. Injunctions. A civil complaint thick as a phone book. The criminal referral went to the district attorney. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Elder exploitation. Conspiracy to commit theft. Each charge carried years. Stacked together they built a wall. High. Unclimbable. Permanent. But Nora was not satisfied with walls. She wanted a trap. Something elegant. Something that would make them walk in voluntarily. She drafted an email. Warm. Concerned. Dripping with false cooperation. The subject line read, "Moving forward together." The body was a masterpiece. She wrote as me, used my voice, my patterns, my tone. Dear Daniel and Lila, I have been thinking about our conversation. About your concerns. About the future. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps I do need help. Perhaps we should discuss options. I would like to meet. In a neutral space. With your attorney present. To talk about next steps. The bait was perfect. Reasonable. Defeated. Exactly what they wanted to hear. Nora hit send from a clean email account. Untraceable. Anonymous. Professional. Then we waited. Daniel responded in 40 minutes. His relief bled through the screen. He was so glad, so grateful, so ready to help. He suggested a meeting at his attorney's office. Patricia Vance, the guardianship specialist, the one who knew the judges. Next Thursday, 2 p.m., downtown. Her conference room. Nora replied with gratitude, with humility, with perfect submission. She confirmed the meeting, said she looked forward to resolution, to family healing, to moving forward. Then she copied the entire exchange to Marcus, to the district attorney, to her own files. Evidence, layer upon layer. Confession wrapped in cooperation. Thursday arrived cold and bright. October wind stripped leaves from the trees. The city looked clean, hard, unforgiving. Nora's office had a war room. Screens on every wall. Documents spread across a table. 3 associates working phones and laptops. She briefed me like a soldier. What to expect, what to say, what to keep silent. I would not attend the meeting. Neither would Jonah. We were the secret, the surprise, the weapon they did not see coming. Instead, Nora would go. With 2 associates. With recording equipment. With a briefcase full of evidence. She would let them talk. Let them present their case. Let them lie. Let them incriminate themselves further. Then she would spring the trap. Jonah and I watched from the office. Live feed on a monitor. Audio piped through speakers. Patricia Vance's conference room was elegant. Wood paneling. Leather chairs. A view of the financial district. Daniel arrived first. Navy suit. Perfect hair. Confident smile. He looked like success. Like victory. Lila came next. Cream-colored dress. Designer bag. Makeup camera ready. She looked like compassion. Like concern. Their lawyer Patricia was older. 50s. Gray suit. Expensive glasses. She looked like authority. Like inevitability. They sat together. Reviewed papers. Whispered strategies. Prepared for a meeting with a broken old woman. But the woman who walked through that door was not broken. Nora entered like winter. Her 2 associates flanking her. Her briefcase heavy. Her expression carved from ice. Daniel's smile flickered. Uncertainty crossed his face. This was not his mother. This was something else. Nora introduced herself. Attorney for Ruth Hale. Here to discuss the proposed guardianship. Here to review concerns. Patricia relaxed. Attorney to attorney. Professional courtesy. She probably thought this was standard procedure. She outlined the situation. Mrs. Hale's declining capacity. The family's legitimate concerns. The need for protective intervention. She referenced the medical evaluation. Dr. Kowalski's assessment. The clear evidence of cognitive impairment. Nora listened. Took notes. Asked clarifying questions. Played the role perfectly. Daniel added details. Specific incidents. Forgotten appointments. Confusion about dates. Conversations with people who were not there. He sounded rehearsed. Polished. Believable. If I had not known the truth, I might have believed him. Lila contributed emotion. Tears in her eyes. Voice breaking with concern. She loved her mother so much. She just wanted her safe. The performance was flawless. They had practiced this. Refined it. Made it airtight. Patricia produced documents. The guardianship petition. Power of attorney forms. Medical directives. Everything needed to erase me legally. She slid them across the table. Said Mrs. Hale just needed to sign. To accept help. To let her family protect her. Nora gathered the papers. Reviewed them carefully. Let the silence stretch. Let the tension build. Then she reached into her briefcase. Pulled out a folder. Set it on the table with a sound like a gavel. She said there seemed to be some confusion. Some factual inaccuracies. Some potential legal issues. Patricia's expression shifted. Professional concern. She asked what kind of issues. Nora opened the folder, pulled out a photograph. The mantel clock, disassembled, the camera visible, the battery pack labeled. She slid it across the table. Asked if anyone could explain this. The room temperature dropped 20 degrees. Daniel's face went pale. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. Patricia stared at the photo like it was evidence of murder. Because it was. Just a different kind. Nora produced more photos. The smoke detector. The bedroom alarm. The bathroom vent. The study lamp. 12 cameras. 12 angles. 12 violations. Each one documented. Each one illegal. She laid them out like cards in a poker game. Royal flush. Unbeatable. Game over. Patricia found her voice first. Asked where these photos came from. Whether they were authenticated. Whether this was some kind of mistake. Nora produced the forensic report. Marcus Lee's company letterhead. 90 pages of technical analysis. Chain of custody. Expert testimony ready. She read highlights. Installation dates. Access logs. User accounts. IP addresses traced to Daniel's laptop and Lila's phone. Daniel tried to speak. His voice cracked. He said this was a misunderstanding. A security system. For protection. Nora asked if he had consent. If he had disclosed the surveillance. If he had followed any legal protocol. Silence. Then she played the video. The one from 3 weeks ago. Daniel and Lila in the living room. Discussing the house. The equity. The split. 1.2 million. Bali retreat. Property flipping. Laughter. Their voices filled the conference room. Clear. Undeniable. Recorded by their own cameras. Lila started crying. Real tears this time. Not performance. Just fear. Daniel slumped in his chair. His confidence drained away like water. Patricia pushed back from the table. Her face hard. She said she was withdrawing from representation immediately. Translation: she was running. Fast. Before the consequences caught her. Nora let her go. Patricia was small game. A fool who believed liars. Then Nora produced 2 more folders. Thick ones. She slid one to Daniel. One to Lila. She said they had options. 2 paths. 2 very different outcomes. Option A, criminal prosecution. Every charge detailed. Every penalty listed. Federal prison. Asset seizure. Public record. Permanent. Option B, settlement. Immediate. Non-negotiable. Brutal. Complete disinheritance. Repayment of all costs with interest. Non-disclosure agreement. Admission of wrongdoing signed and notarized. Daniel asked how much. His voice barely a whisper. Nora named a figure. $200,000. His face crumbled. That was his savings. His future. Good. Nora gave them 24 hours. To review. To decide. To choose survival over pride. Then she stood. Gathered her folders. Walked out. In her office, Jonah let out a breath. Long. Shaky. I sat still. Watching the blank screen. Feeling the weight lift. Nora returned. Her expression satisfied. She said it was done. They would sign. They would pay. They would disappear. I asked about criminal charges. Whether those would proceed regardless. That was my choice, she said. Justice or peace. Punishment or closure. I thought about it. Long. Hard. Then I chose peace. Not for them. For me. Some battles you win by walking away. By taking everything they wanted. By leaving them empty. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. They signed the next day. Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. Nora's office felt like a courtroom. Heavy silence. Expensive furniture. The smell of leather and consequence. Daniel arrived alone. No suit this time. Jeans. A wrinkled shirt. He looked smaller, older, defeated. Lila came with her husband, a man I had met twice. He looked embarrassed. She looked hollow. Their new lawyer was young, nervous, fresh out of law school probably. Damage control. Cleanup crew. The documents covered the table. Page after page. Legal language. Final language. Nora walked them through each section. Her voice clinical. No mercy. No comfort. Complete disinheritance. All current and future claims void. No appeals. No challenges. No contact. Repayment schedule outlined. 200,000 total. First installment due immediately. Monthly payments after. Interest accruing. Non-disclosure agreement. Lifetime binding. No interviews. No social media. No memoir. Violation meant additional penalties. Admission of wrongdoing. Signed confession. Illegal surveillance. Falsified documents. Conspiracy to defraud. Every crime listed. The young lawyer tried to negotiate. To soften terms. To preserve something. Nora shut him down. These were not negotiations. This was a life raft. Take it or drown. Daniel signed first, his hand shaking, his signature barely legible. Lila took longer, her pen hovering, her eyes wet, looking for escape that did not exist. Her husband touched her arm, whispered something. She nodded. She signed. The notary stamped everything. Official, binding, permanent. Nora collected the documents, placed them in folders, said they were done here. Daniel stood, started to speak, to say something to me, to explain, to apologize, to justify. Nora told him no. The agreement prohibited contact, direct or indirect, verbal or written. He was no longer my son. Lila was no longer my daughter. Those relationships were legally terminated. They were strangers now, strangers who owed me money. They left, quiet, broken, the door closing behind them with a soft click. The conference room felt larger, emptier, cold despite the heating. Jonah sat beside me, his face unreadable, processing, trying to understand what he had witnessed. Nora asked if I was satisfied, if this was the outcome I wanted. Satisfied. The word felt wrong, empty, like asking if a funeral went well. But it was done, finished, the threat eliminated, the danger past. I told her yes, this was what needed to happen. She nodded, professional to the end. She said there was one more thing. Something we should discuss. The house. My assets. Everything Daniel and Lila had targeted. It was protected now, legally. But protection was temporary, unless I made it permanent. She recommended a trust. Irrevocable. Structured to prevent future challenges. Future schemes. Future children. The Howard and Ruth Hale Trust. Named for my husband. For our life together. For values they forgot. She had already drafted documents. Already consulted estate planners. Already built the fortress higher. The house would transfer to the trust. The investments. The accounts. Everything. Jonah would be first beneficiary. For education. For life. For the future he deserved. The remainder would fund scholarships. For kids like him. Kids who protected their elders. Kids who chose right over easy. My children would get nothing. Now or later. Living or dead. Nothing. Because some betrayals erased inheritance. Some crimes forfeited family. I signed the trust documents. My hand steady. My mind clear. Nora witnessed, filed, recorded, made it official, made it permanent. When we left her office, the sun was setting. Orange light bleeding across the city. Shadows growing long and cold. Jonah drove. Neither of us spoke. Words felt unnecessary, insufficient, wrong. We stopped for dinner at a diner. Red vinyl booths. Coffee that tasted burnt. A waitress who called everyone honey. Jonah ordered a burger. I ordered soup. Neither of us ate much. He asked if I was okay. If I regretted anything. If I wished things were different. The question was kind, but impossible to answer simply. Was I okay? No. Yes. Maybe. Okay was not a fixed state anymore. Did I regret? Protecting myself. Defending my life. Refusing to be a victim. No. Never. Did I wish things were different? Every minute of every day. But wishing changed nothing. I told him I was sad. That sadness was allowed. That grief could coexist with strength. I had lost my children. Not to death. To choice. Their choice. Their greed. Their cruelty. That loss was real. Valid. Painful. But it was not my fault. He nodded. His eyes older than 17. Old enough to understand complicated truths. We finished dinner. Paid the check. Drove home through darkness. Home. My home. Not theirs. Not anymore. Mine. Marcus's team had finished the sweep. Every camera removed. Every wire stripped. Every violation erased. The house felt clean. Empty. Waiting to be filled with something new. The mantel clock was gone. Replaced with a simple wooden one. No camera. No battery. Just time. The smoke detector was original now. Basic. Functional. Nothing hidden inside. The bedroom alarm showed the hour. Nothing more. Nothing less. I walked through each room. Touched the walls. Felt the difference. The absence of eyes. Jonah had stayed in the guest room. His backpack on the chair. His laptop charging. His presence solid. I asked if he wanted to stay longer. Take a break from his mother. From the aftermath. He said yes, if that was okay. If I did not mind. Mind. I wanted him here. Needed him here. He was family. Real family. The kind that saved you. That night I slept in my own bed. The sheets clean. The air quiet. No red light blinking. But sleep came slow. My mind replaying moments. Words. Choices. Daniel as a baby. Laughing. Reaching for me. Trust in his eyes. Lila learning to walk. Falling. Getting up. Trying again. Birthdays. Christmases. Graduations. Weddings. Years of memories stacked like photographs. All of it real. All of it true. All of it poisoned now by what came after. They had looked at me and seen dollars. Looked at my grief and seen weakness. Looked at my age and seen opportunity. That was the part that hurt most. Not the cameras. Not the lies. The calculation. The cold math that made me less than human. Less than mother. Just an asset to liquidate. Howard would have been destroyed. He loved them blindly. Believed in them completely. Maybe it was better he was gone. Better he never knew. Better his memory stayed untainted. Morning came gray and soft. Rain on the windows. The smell of wet leaves and earth. Jonah made coffee. Strong. Hot. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where this started. He asked what happened next. What I would do now. How life continued after this. Good question. Life. It kept moving. Kept demanding. Kept expecting normalcy. But normal was gone. Normal was before. Before cameras. Before betrayal. before lawyers and signed confessions. This was after, and after required rebuilding, redefining, starting again at 72. I told him I would stay here. In this house. In my life. On my terms. I would join clubs. Make friends. Fill the silence with voices that did not judge. Did not scheme. Did not measure my worth in equity. I would garden. Howard's roses needed pruning. The beds needed mulch. Spring would come. Life would grow. I would volunteer. Teach auditing to students. Show them how to find fraud. How to trust evidence. How to protect the vulnerable. Because I was vulnerable once. For a moment. For weeks. Blind to the danger in my own home. But I was not vulnerable anymore. I was fortified. Protected. Armed with knowledge and locked doors. Jonah said he was proud of me. That I was strong. That I inspired him. The words landed soft. Unexpected. Needed. I told him he saved me. That running up those stairs. That grabbing my wrist. That was courage. He shrugged. Said it was nothing. Just the right thing. Just the right thing. As if that was simple. As if most people did it. As if his mother and uncle had. But they did not. They chose wrong. And he chose right. That mattered. That was everything. Rain fell harder. The gutters overflowed. Water pooled in the driveway. Inside, the house was warm. Dry. Safe. The trust was funded. The documents filed. The future secured. Daniel and Lila would make their payments. Month after month. Year after year. Paying for their crime. Paying for their greed. And I would live. Simply. Quietly. Freely. The books were balanced. The audit complete. The case closed. Not with victory. Not with celebration. But with survival. With dignity. With the knowledge that I fought back. And won. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. 3 weeks passed. November arrived with frost and early darkness. The house settled into new rhythms. Quieter. Simpler. Mine again. Jonah had gone back to his mother. Back to school. Back to pretending everything was normal. But he called every night. 7 p.m. Always on time. Just to check. Just to hear my voice. Those calls mattered. They were the thread keeping me tethered. Reminding me I was not alone. The first payment arrived on schedule. A cashier's check. Daniel's name in the corner. $20,000. I deposited it without ceremony. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just numbers moving from one account to another. The money went straight to the trust. To the scholarship fund. To kids who would never know where it came from. That felt right. Transforming their greed into someone else's opportunity. Alchemy. Lead into gold. Marcus called on a Tuesday. His voice careful. Professional. But something underneath. Concern maybe. He asked if I had seen the news. The local paper. The online forums. I had not. I had stopped reading news. Stopped scrolling. Stopped inviting the world's chaos into my kitchen. He said there was an article. About elder exploitation. About a local case that was settled quietly. No names. But details. Enough details that people would guess. Would whisper. Would know. Someone had leaked it. A clerk maybe. A paralegal. Someone who thought the story mattered. And it did matter. Just not the way I wanted. The comments section was vicious. People defending Daniel and Lila. Calling me vindictive. Calling me cruel. She probably was declining, one person wrote. Old people do not see it themselves. The family was just trying to help. Another said children have rights too. That inheritance should not be a weapon. That forgiveness was Christian. The words stung, sharp, unexpected, like being judged by strangers who knew nothing, who saw nothing, who understood nothing. But some comments were different. Supportive, angry on my behalf. One woman wrote about her own mother. How her brother had done the same thing. How she wished she had caught it sooner. Another man detailed his aunt's story. Cameras in her bathroom, her bedroom, her dignity stolen for profit. The pattern was there, obvious, widespread. This was not rare. This was an epidemic. Marcus said to ignore it. To stay quiet. To let the noise fade. Noise always faded. Always moved on to the next scandal. The next tragedy. The next clickable headline. But knowing and doing were different things. The words still crawled under my skin. Still made sleep difficult. Thursday brought something worse. A letter. Hand-delivered. No return address. The envelope was cream-colored. Expensive. The kind Lila used for invitations. Inside, a single page. Her handwriting. Careful. Controlled. Practiced. She said she understood my anger. That she deserved it. That she had made terrible mistakes. But she asked me to remember the good years. The childhood. The love. The family we used to be. She said Daniel was struggling. That his business was failing. That the payments were breaking him. She asked if we could talk. Just once. Just to find some kind of peace. The letter was manipulation. Pure. Obvious. Textbook. Appealing to nostalgia. To guilt. To maternal instinct. To the part of me that remembered her as a baby. As a girl. As my daughter. But that girl was gone. Or maybe she had never existed. Maybe I had invented her. Projected goodness where there was only appetite. I burned the letter in the kitchen sink. Watched the paper curl. Blacken. Disappear into ash. The smoke alarm went off. The new one. The real one. Just doing its job. I waved a towel. Cleared the air. Reset the alarm. Then I called Nora. Told her about the letter. About the contact. About the violation. She said it was borderline. Not direct conversation. But clearly attempting communication. She would send a cease and desist. Remind them of the terms. Make clear that next time meant consequences. Real consequences. Legal. Financial. Criminal. I thanked her. Hung up. Sat at the kitchen table. The same table where everything started. The same table where Daniel and Lila had sat. Eating my food. Plotting my future. Counting my equity. The anger came then. Hot. Clean. Clarifying. Not rage. Not loss of control. Just pure anger. The kind that burned without destroying. They had taken so much. My trust. My peace. My family. My sense of safety. But they had not taken everything. They had not taken my house. My mind. My will. And they never would. Friday I drove to the bank. Asked to see the trust documents. To confirm everything was filed correctly. Recorded properly. Bulletproof. The banker was helpful. Mid-40s. Professional. She walked me through every page. Every clause. Every protection. The house was transferred. The accounts locked. The beneficiaries named. Jonah first. Scholarships second. Nothing else. She said it was one of the tightest trusts she had seen. No loopholes. No wiggle room. No way to challenge. Nora had done her job. Built walls that could not be climbed. Doors that could not be opened. I felt the tension release. Just a little. Just enough to breathe deeper. The weekend was quiet. Rain and wind and gray skies. November in full force. I sorted through closets. Howard's clothes still hanging. waiting for decisions I had delayed. His suits, his ties, his work boots worn at the heels. Each item a memory, a moment, a piece of life lived together. I packed them carefully, folded them with respect, took them to the donation center. Someone else would wear them. Someone who needed warmth, who needed dignity, who needed a chance. That felt like Howard would want. Practical, useful, unsentimental. At home the closet looked empty. Strange, wrong, but also lighter, less crowded, ready for something new. Sunday I called Jonah. Our regular time, 7 p.m. He sounded tired. Tests coming, college applications due, the normal stress of being 17. I asked about his mother. Whether she was okay, whether things were tense. He said she was quiet, distant, barely speaking, just existing in the same house, moving through rooms like a ghost. His father tried to help, tried to mediate, tried to make sense of what happened. But some things made no sense. Some betrayals had no explanation, no justification, no redemption. Jonah asked if I was lonely, if the house felt too big, if I needed company. Sweet boy, always worried, always protective, always thinking of me. I told him I was fine, that lonely and alone were different things, that I was learning the difference. Alone was quiet, peaceful, safe, no cameras, no schemes, no children measuring my worth. Lonely was something else, something I felt sometimes, late at night, early morning, in the spaces between. But loneliness was survivable, manageable, honest. It was better than false company, better than smiles that hid knives. Better than children who stopped being children. Monday I started volunteer work, teaching auditing basics at the community college. Night classes, adult learners, people going back to school, changing careers, building new lives, taking chances. I taught them how to read financial statements, how to spot inconsistencies, how to follow money, how to trust numbers over words. Some of them were my age. Starting over, reinventing, refusing to be done. One woman was 75, widowed, bored, wanting purpose, wanting challenge, wanting to matter. We talked after class. Coffee from the vending machine. Terrible but hot. She asked what brought me here. What made me want to teach. I told her a version of the truth. That I had learned hard lessons recently. That I wanted others to learn easier. She nodded, said hard lessons were the only kind that stuck. That changed you. That made you careful. We became friends. Slowly, carefully, testing trust like ice on a pond. Her name was Margaret. She had grandchildren, a garden, a dog, a life. Simple, normal, uncomplicated, beautiful in its ordinariness. The weeks moved forward. Payments arrived. The trust grew. The scholarship fund took shape. Nora filed the paperwork, created the foundation, named it officially, the Howard and Ruth Hale Educational Trust. The first scholarship would be awarded next fall. $5,000. Renewable. For students demonstrating courage and integrity. For students like Jonah, who ran upstairs, who grabbed wrists, who chose right. Thanksgiving approached. The first without family, without Daniel's wine, without Lila's Pinterest perfect table settings. Just me, and Jonah, and Margaret, who had nowhere else to go. We cooked together. Simple food, turkey, potatoes, pie, nothing fancy, nothing performed. We ate at my kitchen table. The one that had seen so much, held so much, survived so much, And for the first time in months, the house felt full. Not crowded, not invaded, just full. Full of real things, real people, real gratitude. Margaret asked what I was thankful for. The traditional question, the expected question. I thought about it, really thought. Thankful for escape, for discovery, for Jonah's sharp eyes and quick thinking. Thankful for Marcus and Nora. For justice, for documents that held. Thankful for this house, these walls, this table, this life I got to keep. But mostly thankful for clarity. For seeing truth, for knowing who people really were. Even when that truth hurt. Even when that knowledge cost everything. Because living in truth was better than dying in lies. I said that out loud. All of it. Margaret raised her water glass. Said that was worth drinking to. We clinked glasses. Cheap glass. Dollar store. Nothing special. But the sound was clear. Pure. Real. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. December came with snow. The first real snow of winter. Heavy. Wet. Clinging to branches like cotton. The house looked different under white. Softer. Quieter. Like the world had been muffled overnight. I stood at the kitchen window. Coffee steaming in my hand. The garden buried under 6 inches. Howard's roses were dormant. Waiting. They would come back in spring. Stronger for the cold. Jonah had finished his college applications. Early decision to 3 schools. Engineering programs. Computer science. Digital forensics. He wanted to do what Marcus did. Find the hidden things. Protect the vulnerable. Use technology for justice. The experience had changed him. Hardened him. Made him solid. Real. Useful. The second payment arrived. Another cashier's check. Daniel's handwriting on the memo line. Just numbers. No message. $20,000. On time. As required. I deposited it without ceremony. No emotion. Just process. The trust growing. The scholarship fund taking shape. Turning their crime into someone's opportunity. That was justice. Real justice. Not revenge. Margaret and I met for lunch twice a week now. A diner near the college. Bad coffee. Good pie. She talked about her grandchildren. Her dog. Her garden buried under snow. Normal things. Easy things. She never asked about my children. Never pressed. She understood boundaries. Understood pain. That was friendship. Real friendship. Knowing when to speak. When to listen. When to sit. On the second Tuesday of December, Nora called. Her voice different. Lighter. Almost pleased. Dr. Raymond Kowalski had filed a complaint. Against Daniel and Lila. Against their former lawyer Patricia Vance. His signature had been forged. His reputation used. His license put at risk. He was furious. He wanted criminal charges. Professional sanctions. Everyone involved to pay. The district attorney was reviewing. Considering charges. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Professional misconduct. They had thought it was over. That signing papers meant escape. That money bought silence. But crimes had consequences. Victims had voices. Truth had momentum. That evening Jonah called. His voice excited. Breathless. Young. He had been accepted. Early decision. Full scholarship. Engineering program. Top-tier school. Pride swelled in my chest. Hot. Bright. Unexpected in its intensity. This boy. This beautiful, brave boy. Who ran upstairs. Who saved my life. Who deserved everything. I told him I was proud. That Howard would be proud. That this was just the beginning. He said none of it would have happened without me. Without the trust. Without the way I fought back. That I had shown him what strength looked like. What integrity cost. What justice required. The words made my throat tight. My eyes hot. Not sad tears. Just human tears. The kind that came from being seen. Being valued. Being loved correctly. Christmas was coming. I had no family to shop for. No children to buy for. No grandchildren except Jonah. That should have felt sad. Empty. Wrong. But it felt clean. Simple. Honest. Like cutting away dead wood to let new growth come. I bought gifts for Margaret. For Jonah. For the women in my auditing class. Small things. Thoughtful things. A gardening book. A laptop case. Notebooks and pens. Nothing expensive. Nothing performative. Margaret invited me to her house for Christmas Eve. Just her. Her dog. Me. Quiet celebration. We exchanged gifts by her fireplace. Real fire. Real warmth. Real companionship. She gave me a scarf. Hand knit. Deep blue. Soft as clouds. She said it took 3 months. That she wanted me warm. The gift was more than wool. It was time. Attention. Care. Things no one could fake. We drank wine. Ate cookies. Talked about nothing important. Everything important. The kind of Christmas Eve that meant something. That filled spaces. That healed quietly. On Christmas morning, alone again, I walked through my house. Room by room. Seeing it fresh. The living room where Daniel and Lila had plotted. Now just a living room. Furniture. Books. Light. The kitchen where they had sat. Judged. Schemed. Now just my kitchen. My table. My space. The bedroom where cameras had watched. Now just where I slept. Dreamed. Woke. Private again. Every room reclaimed. Every corner mine. Every breath unobserved. The violation was gone. Scrubbed away. Replaced with ordinary life. I made tea. Howard's favorite mug. The one I had kept. The ritual I had maintained. The grief was still there. For him. For the family I thought I had. For the years I could not get back. But grief and peace could coexist. Could occupy the same space. Could both be true. Jonah arrived mid-morning. Arms full of presents. Face bright with cold. Energy crackling around him. We opened gifts in the living room. Paper tearing. Laughter bubbling. Normal. Easy. Right. I gave him a watch. Howard's watch. The one from my nightstand. The one I grabbed when we ran. Gold. Simple. Timeless. Worn by a good man. Passed to a worthy boy. Jonah's eyes went wet. He understood the weight. The meaning. The trust. He said he would wear it every day. That he would remember. That he would be worthy. He already was. He gave me a photo frame. Digital. Preloaded with pictures. Him and me. Over the years. Moments I had forgotten. Birthday parties. Graduations. Random Tuesdays. Evidence of time spent. Love given. Family chosen. Not blood family. Not legal family. But real family. The kind that stayed. That fought. That mattered. We cooked dinner together. Turkey breast. Roasted vegetables. Pie from scratch. Howard's recipe. The kitchen filled with smells. Sounds. Life. The kind of abundance that had nothing to do with money. After dinner, Jonah asked whether I missed them. Daniel. Lila. The family we were. Honest answer. Sometimes. In small moments. In memories before everything broke. But missing and wanting back were different. I missed the idea, not the reality, not who they became, and I had learned something. About family. about love, about what mattered. Family was not blood, not obligation, not automatic. Family was choice, action, proof. Jonah was family. Margaret was family. Marcus and Nora were family. People who showed up, who acted, who protected. Daniel and Lila were strangers. Strangers who looked familiar. Strangers who owed me money. Strangers who would stay strangers. We cleaned dishes together, washed, dried, put away. Simple tasks, simple companionship, simple peace. When he left, the house was quiet again. But not lonely, not empty, just quiet. I sat in the living room. Lights off. Just the glow from the street. Snow falling outside. The year was ending. A new one coming. Full of possibility. Full of choice. Full of life I got to design. I thought about Howard. About what he would say. What he would think. He would be proud. Of the fight. Of the survival. Of the strength. He would be sad. About Daniel. About Lila. About the family that failed. But he would understand. Hard choices. Necessary pain. Survival over sentiment. Outside, snow continued falling. Covering everything. Making the world new. Inside, I was warm. Safe. Free. The books were balanced. The audit complete. The case closed. Not perfectly. Not happily. But truly. And truth was enough.